All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today for UFC Vegas 72, I'll be breaking down the fights with one of my favorite cappers, my OG that I started watching this stuff with, Clint from Die Hard MMA. What's up, Clint? Thanks for coming on. How are you feeling about this card, brother?
I'm feeling good, man. Thank you so much for having me again as a guest. I appreciate it. And this is a fun card, man. I broke this whole thing down on my show yesterday, and it's one of those cards where it's going to be sketchy. Like, I think it's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be tough to bet, but there's a lot of different moving parts for us to talk about. So I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah. I thought that I wouldn't have too many spots, but now I have like 6 or 7 money lines. So yeah, gonna be a fun night. It's one of those where you look at the slate, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna touch this with the 10-foot pole. Come fight time, you've got like 20 units staked.
Yep. That was me like 2 weeks ago, man. I did the same thing. I was like, nobody bet any of this shit. And then I just started like rapid firing. So I hear you. I get it.
What's up, Victor? What's up, CT? Thank you guys all for tuning in as always. And all right, let's hop right into the card. First fight up, we've got an interesting one. 2 debutantes. We got Hailey Cowan versus Jamey-Lyn Horth. Cowan 7-2-0. She's 31, 5'8" with the 69-inch reach. Don't have her specific camp. We're going to stick with Tapology, Blitz Sports MMA. Horth 5-0. She's 33, 2 years older, 1 inch shorter, 2-inch reach disadvantage. The sound martial arts is what we've got. Clint, why don't you start us off, man?
Man, this fight is tough. So, I'm sick of talking about Hailey Cowan at this point, man. She's tried to make her UFC debut so many times. I'm over it. Like, just get her in there, please. I'm not convinced we're going to see her fight until the cage door is shut on Saturday. This is her 4th replacement fighter, something crazy like that. And it's wild because her level of competition for these opponents, it's been like this. Like, the first time I thought they were setting her up for a win, and then the second time they were overlooking her opponent. It was way wide. And then the third time, like, now I'm like, it's a pick 'em. Are they setting her up? Are they over her? And now they're just going to sell her down the river. Is this someone they think she can beat? I don't know. Like, it's been a wild ride with the opponent swaps, man. But Horth, I kind of like what I see from her. She's coming from LFA. She's moving up a weight class, though, and that's a little concerning to me because Hailey Cowan is really big and she's really strong. So like, I feel like Horth is like maybe 1 or 2 steps behind Cowan when it comes to like the change of the weight class. And because of that, I feel like Cowan can kind of maybe hold her own in this fight where she might be at a skill deficit. She's going to be the bigger, stronger girl. And we've seen that be enough in women's MMA. We see that be enough for these fighters to get by. So I'm kind of tentatively picking Hailey Cowan, but I'm not confident in that at all. And I really don't trust her grappling, her IQ, or her gas tank. So anybody who wants the shot on Horth, you go for it. Like, I'm not going to talk you off betting Horth in this spot. I don't mind it one bit, but maybe a better live entry for me personally, probably an altogether pass.
Yeah, so I'm honestly, like, I echo a lot of your thoughts. I ended up taking Horth, but I got her kind of early. I got her at minus 105 for 1.1 units. At this point, what is she? Minus 140. I think that's getting a bit much just because what you said, right? The physicality edge here. Horth coming up. Horth is about the same size. She's only 1 inch smaller and the reach is about the same. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like size, I don't think it's even close. I mean, Cowan is built. She's extremely built, very strong. They keep talking about the gymnast background. One thing I do know is that gymnasts are very, very strong. It doesn't always show as much, but like their core, everything is just ripped because you need it for gymnastics. I don't necessarily think that's going to help with other facets of MMA, but that physicality will definitely be there. We have seen Horth pushed up against the fence and kind of controlled for a bit in the Le Frambose fight, but that was 2019. We do only have 2 fights to work with. I do like her striking more. That's something that came up with for me. Like, Cowan is a pretty decent striker, but I like the striking of Horth more. I think she's going to have the bigger output as well. And her grappling has definitely improved. She's got good wrestling herself, in my opinion. Her takedown defense is pretty solid. And when she's getting taken down, she's scrambling or getting up well. And Cowan, yeah, she's getting takedowns. She's got decent wrestling. I think the striking is pretty decent too. But she gets taken down. Lite took her down. Lite controlled her in the Dana White Contender Series fight. She's also a big lady, but similar in size to Horth, I'd say. And her 2 losses. What's up? You don't think Cowan did?
I thought that was a bad decision.
Yeah, I don't remember even who I had, but I do feel like which rounds do you score for Lide? 2, 3?
Yeah, I think so. If memory serves.
Yeah. 2 was clear. I literally just watched this. That's why I know the rounds even. But in round 3 it was weird because like I forgot who got who down. I think Cowan got Lite down, then Lite reversed and got on top. Whatever. Long story short, I think Horth is a good bet at minus 105, minus 110. At minus 140, I would pass because it's favorite or pass for me, but I don't want to trust Horth at that kind of price. I do think she wins though. 100% finish rate. That is a good point.
I don't mind it. Violence look.
I'm looking it up now. I want to see what that ITD is. It must be nice, no? Let's see.
You got to think it's probably pretty good.
Clint, take a guess.
I'm going to say inside the distance is 5-1.
Plus 200.
Oh, they know.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And it only opened at plus 2. That's crazy. At plus 285.
That's super low.
But Cowan inside the distance is plus 750. Wow. I don't think it's that much of a disparity. But all right. We can move on to a more interesting fight, I would say. We've got Brian Kelleher versus Journey Newson. Kelleher 24-14-0. He's 36 years old, 5'6" with a 64-inch reach. I've got Long Island MMA for him. Newson 10-4-0. He's going to be 2 years younger at 34, 1 inch shorter, 2-inch reach advantage, and impact jiu-jitsu for him. He's a black belt there. I'll start us off. I mean, when I first saw the line, it was like Kelleher minus 190, Newson like plus 140 or something. And my gut reaction was Newson because I remember doing his tape for the Fernie Garcia fight because he was the underdog and I wanted to fade Fernie, and that worked out. So I was thinking like, yeah, and Kelleher hasn't looked that great. Who's he beaten recently? Kroom and Pilarte, and that's really it. But then I ran the tape, and honestly, I really do feel like Kelleher should win this. Newson, I don't like his output at all. I think he's fairly limited on the feet for a guy who I'm pretty sure comes from a boxing background. And, his wrestling is pretty good, but I don't think that it's going to be better than Kelleher's. Kelleher's got a 60% takedown defense, and he's only really losing or getting taken down by very good wrestlers or very good grapplers or people with good wrestling like Batista. So I don't think Newson's going to get him down. I was thinking maybe sub because Kelleher's been submitted 8 times, but then again, I'm watching Newson, this BJJ black belt, and I'm like, no, he's not going to win by sub. So then I'm like, how is he going to win? Kelleher's probably going to out-wrestle him. He's not going to submit him. Can he beat him in the striking? It's possible. He's got good striking defense, but that's also because he's not really throwing much, so he can stay at range. But I kind of like Kelleher's boxing better, and the price at this point is getting pretty playable, I would say. I mean, Kelleher's minus 133. Money's still coming in on Newson. So I think I'm just going to sit and wait, and the second I see the line turning, I'm going to bet Kelleher and call it a day. How about you, Clint?
Man, you nailed it. Like I'm right there with you. I think Kelleher is probably the side, and the lower this line gets, the more interested that I am. I couldn't get my head around minus 200. I love my boy Brian Kelleher. Boom's, been a guy that I've interacted with Twitter for a couple of years now. Big fan of his. He's a cool dude. But at the end of the day, I'm like, man, like he's a gatekeeper role at this point. He's getting older. He has to get the wrestling going. He really relies on that skill set. Not that that's a bad thing, but we've seen what happens when he takes that step up in competition. I just couldn't justify minus 200. I could get behind minus 130. Like I think he's the favorite. I think he should be the favorite. And I feel like this is one of those spots where the love for Journey Newsom has gotten just a little bit out of control. I think he'll score takedowns. I think he'll do enough with those takedowns. And then honestly, when they're on the feet, he might not be as explosive as his opponent in this spot in Journey Newsom, but I think he hits harder than Journey Newsom does. So we've also got that guillotine to fall back on. He's got avenues to finish this fight. It's not just a decision. So I don't mind a buy low spot on Boom. Definitely interested. And I'm just kind of waiting to see how low this goes. Anytime I've got someone who I'm invested heart-wise in, I try to make sure I can get the best of the number. I make sure I really want to play it because I already want to see him get his hand raised just as a fan. So I may or may not end up playing it, but it's going to be favorite or pass for me at this point. And just shout out to my guy, Steve, in the chat. I had to Google what pickled eggs look like And I'll share a little secret with you. I actually have not had any Fireball for about 2 months now. Your boy's trying to get it together and lose some weight over here. So as much as I joke about the Fireball constantly, I haven't actually been drinking very much of it. And this is dad life right here that's doing this shit to me. This is waking up at 6 a.m. that's doing the red line in the eyes. So I apologize for being a little cracked out, but that's what's going on.
And real quick, 2 things. So first, I just like wiped out for a second. I don't know if my camera went out for you guys, but my Wi-Fi is extremely unreliable. I pay literally $60 a month for the best possible one, and it's still crap sometimes. Sometimes it's fantastic, but sometimes right when I'm streaming, it's crap. Other thing, Victor De Jesus. So I heard this reasoning too, and I don't know, like training at home, I get it. That's kind of questionable, but also how many guys have we seen training with bad partners? I mean, Max Holloway didn't train in the gym until this last fight. He was just chilling at home. That's Max Holloway, though. Can't really compare Kelleher to him.
It does worry me just a little bit. Like, he's straight up garage training this thing, man. Like, he's getting some reps in at a jiu-jitsu school nearby, but that's it. Like, the rest of it is him just getting in shape. And I'm like that might be enough, but I don't like that decision.
But like, does anyone that good train at Newson's camp at Impact? Like, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
I mean, not that I know of, but warm bodies are better than the jiu-jitsu dummy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I just looked it up. There's no one special at that gym, but you're right. I mean, a fighter is better than whatever he's sparring with or fighting in his garage. But we can move on to our next one. Let me just fix this. All right. Next up, we've got Stephanie Egger versus Irina Alekseeva. Egger, she's 8-3-0, 34 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Buddy gym for her. Alekseeva, 4-1-0. She's 32, 2 years younger. She's 2 inches taller, 2-inch reach disadvantage for her, though. And I do not have her camp as well. We're going with Ratiborets. So, Clint, why don't you start us off?
Man, I've been pretty favored or pass so far to get the night started, and I am like way more confident favored or pass here in this spot. I think that we've seen so much swinging recency bias with Stephanie Egger. People can't figure out whether they want her to be a big favorite or not, but the fact is she's got strong judo, she's big, she's physical, and if she gets on top of you, she's nasty, man. The submission, the ground and pound, like she knows how to finish. And I love that about her. Her opponent, I don't know what to make of Alekseeva. She's 4-1, so the experience gap is going to be absolutely massive. She's coming off of back-to-back long layoffs, and that's not a good thing at this stage of her career, in my opinion. And honestly, it looks like she's got a very similar style game plan to Stephanie Egger. And for me, if you're going to give me an unknown, someone who I saw getting her ass beat in Russia 2 years ago, haven't heard from her since, and you're going to go with that cagey, grindy, body lock, look for the hip toss type of game plan against somebody who I know is really good at the hip toss, I'm going to side with Stephanie Egger, man. I do think this is a good Egger spot. I think she's worth this price tag. I think you can parlay her. And I think she can snap this girl's arm off. I think she can submit her or ground and pound her. I wouldn't mind inside the distance on Egger here.
When you first started, when you were like, I've been favored in past, I thought you were about to pitch Alekseeva. Glad you didn't. I'm on Egger too. So you nailed the point. Like, the style is actually very similar, and it's because Alekseeva, she's got a Sambo background, a world champion, apparently. I tried to look it up. I can't tell what world champion, but a decent level of Sambo for her, and Egger's judo. So extremely similar styles. And that's why I really lean Egger, because you look at Alekseeva, she's not really doing it at a higher level. And who's taking down Egger? Tracy Cortez. Does Cortez use throws? No, she uses doubles and she wrestles. Alekseeva doesn't use that kind of stuff. She needs throws. Is she going to throw Egger? I don't think so. Is she going to trip Egger?
I mean, maybe, but she could lose that scramble afterward.
Yeah. She is going to be bigger here. I'm very hyped to see the face-offs, because I want to see if this is like a Jairzinho Rosenstruck situation, because to me, off tape, it seems like Egger's also going to be very big. And it's hard for me to imagine Alekseeva being even bigger. So I'm hyped to see the face-off. I don't have much of an investment here. I parlayed Egger because I felt like she's a good parlay piece with, of course, a canceled fight. It was the God damn it.
Levy.
Yep. I bet probably everybody had that parlay. So yeah.
And I think that parlay was going to get busted, my friend.
You think Levy was going to get knocked out?
I think
I had
Levy
a
was
gut
the
feeling
parlay
too.
buster for the week, man. I
I
know
had a gut
everybody and
feeling.
their mom was piling in, and I was like, careful.
Yeah, I parlayed him just because of the grappling, but the whole time, like, I was like, damn, he can get knocked out. So maybe it was a good thing that that fight got canceled. But now I'm left with 1.2 units on minus 300 on Egger, which isn't my favorite thing. But yeah, I think she's going to win. Is it ITD? Is it by decision? I personally can't tell you. I need to see more of Alekseeva against high-level competition, but I do think Egger inside the distance is live. It's always interesting when a women's fight is like plus 100 for fight doesn't go or plus 128 on the under.
I know,
Tells you
right?
what people think. But yeah, I'm not going to say anything there. Egger for me is the pick. Parlayed her. That failed. But if you want to parlay her a bit, I would. I just wouldn't do it too much because Alekseeva doesn't seem like a bum to me. And maybe that Sambo is better than I anticipate. So I would just be careful. Keep it limited, maybe 1-2 units on the parlay and call it a day. We can move on to our next fight. So this one's pretty short notice. Quinlan was supposed to fight Ange Lusa. I had 2 units on Lusa. I was so freaking confident with him, but that's gone now. Here we've got Josh Quinlan versus Trey Waters. Quinlan, he's 6-0, 30 years old, 6 feet tall with a 72-inch reach. Milestone MMA is what we've got. Waters, 7-1-0. He's 2 years younger, 5 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage, and Ludus MMA is what it says here. I'll start us off. So I've never been a Quinlan fan, and I am kind of a Waters fan. So for me personally, the problem with Quinlan is after round 1, he's not that special. Like, you can't really say that his cardio is horrible because while he's never been to a decision and most of his fights have ended in round 1, when he goes to the 3rd round and gets those late finishes, he looks fine. Like, he looks fine. And trust me, I wanted to poke as many holes in him as I could. And I had to admit that his cardio seemed better than we kind of make it out to be. His power is clearly there. I mean, the shot he knocked out Logan Erdman with is just ridiculous. It was one hit. And I think his counter striking is really good. And I think in the pocket or up close, he's very good. At range, though, I'm not loving what I see. I think that his striking defense, I mean, it says 80% on Tapology, but on UFC stats, but that's because he fought for 2.5 minutes in the UFC. I don't think his striking defense is that good. It's the Borshig fight that kind of made me think like, yeah, Waters can do this because Borshig, he's big, right? He's big, he's long. He's more of a grappler than Waters, but at range, he was landing too. And he actually wobbled Quinlan once. So for me, that was like not good. And like, all right, you knocked out Witt, right? Okay, good job. So has pretty much everybody else who Witt has fought. And then you knocked out Logan Erdman. Pretty decent win, but Erdman hasn't been having a crazy career in the regional since. He's not top notch. And do I think Waters is this top notch guy? No, I don't. But I think he's going to be harder to knock out than Quinlan's previous opponents. And with that reach, with that height, and the fact that he knows how to use it, I think Waters is going to find a lot of success at range. I think on the feet, he's going to have the edge as long as he can maintain that range. If Quinlan can back him up against the fence, he might be in trouble. But on the feet, I kind of like him now. So the question for me comes down to can Quinlan wrestle? Will he wrestle? I've looked through as much tape as I can. He doesn't really shoot ever, but he will catch like kicks, then follow to the ground, and he looks good on top. But I haven't personally seen him shoot any shots, so I can't come in here and think he's going to wrestle. Waters, pretty decent takedown defense. Getting taken down by Bonfim, to me, isn't the end of the world. He is short notice, but he also just fought literally like last week or 2 weeks ago against Jamey-Lyn Fuller in LFA. And I mean, that could be a good and bad thing, right? Because good, he pretty much had a camp. Bad, he has to cut weight twice. So we'll see how that's going to affect him. Right now, my money's off of this. I don't know if I want anything to do with it because I see the upside with Quinlan if he gets in close. I see the upside with Waters. But Waters is a dog. If money keeps coming in on Quinlan like it is, if he hits like plus 200, maybe I'll take like a half unit shot because I do think he's really live if Quinlan's not mixing in the wrestling or doesn't get a quick knockout. So I'll make my pick waters, no bet yet. But if I put anything, it'll be on my Twitter like always. How about you, Clint?
Man, I don't know that there's anything I can add to that. You really kind of hit all the main key points. I've never been sold on Quinlan. I can't remember. I have to go back and look at the record. I don't remember if I actually pulled the trigger on Jason Witt or not. I know he's the chinniest man in the UFC, so that was something I knew going into that fight, which may have kept me off it, or I might have just taken the plunge. I really can't recall. Either way, that's not the guy you want going up against a power puncher. We knew the result of that one before it happened. I just don't know anything about the guy outside of one round. Like, I don't know if he's any good. Now he's coming off a PED suspension. So is that power still there? Does he have a gas tank? I have no idea. So it's a really rough spot here for me. And honestly, I don't even like his opponent. Like, Waters, he's really big. He's really long. I think he's going to have a tough time making weight on short notice for this fight. And if that's the case, I don't know if he fights as well as he has in the past. And I don't even like the style he fights with in the first place. Like, everything is, he's like a low volume version of Bobby Green. Everything is hands low, duck and roll.
I made the same comparison. Let's go. That's such a good call, Clint. I had the same thoughts.
I don't have any problem if you want to fight like Bobby Green. Bobby Green's awesome, but he throws with like half or a third of the volume Bobby does. You're just not going to win unless you get the knockout in that circumstance. And he seems like he hits relatively hard, but if both these guys have chins, it could be a banger and Quinlan just throws more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anything to do with this fight. I'm kind of there with you. I think I'm going to lean dog or pass, but I'm going to be watching the scales very closely on Friday to see how he looks, to see if he even makes it. And then we'll see how Josh Quinlan looks, because has he lost a lot of muscle mass? Has USADA just completely sucked this guy dry? We'll find out. I have no idea. Too many questions. Not a fight I'm interested in gambling on. But if you were going to bet anything, I wouldn't mind an under, because both these guys do have brutal, vicious knockout power. And with the weight concerns and with the USADA concerns, there could be a lot of durability issues. I think violence would be the only way I'd look if my money was involved.
Even under 1.5, Clint? Because that's what they set it at. I don't like that.
Oh, that's tough, man. I was hoping for a 2.5, but yeah. I probably would avoid the 1.5 if I'm being honest.
I feel like it might go over. I really do feel like it might go over, but I'm not going to touch that. What has my attention maybe is like fight ends by KO, because sometimes they make the price very different. Sometimes it's the same if fight doesn't go. But for example, last week, the Usman, whoever he fought, Usman Tafa fight. I know it ended up not hitting, but the fight ends by KO was -165, but fight doesn't go was -350. So sometimes there's a huge difference. So we'll see if maybe it's here as well. I'm going to definitely check out that prop once it's out on DraftKings. We can move on to the next fight. Here we've got Cody Durden versus Charles Johnson. Durden 14-4-1, 32 years old. He's 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. American top team Atlanta for him. Johnson 13-4-0. He's 32 as well. 2 inches taller, 3-inch reach advantage. It always says Tiger Muay Thai on Tapology. I know he doesn't always spend his time there. I know sometimes he goes back. I don't know off the top of my head where he's at right now. But Clint, why don't you start us off, man? You got anything here?
Yeah, man. You know how we kind of broke down the whole Brian Kelleher situation? We were talking about buying low on it. That's exactly what I'm doing here with Charles Johnson. He opened up as a much bigger favorite in this spot. I have been all aboard the Charles Johnson train since he got to the UFC. I said as soon as he gets past this fight with Makhayev's going to grind him out. He's going to win a decision here. But once we get by that, this guy's going to be a money train. And so far, that's been the case. Now, the Zalgas fight was super tight, super close. He looked like $1 million in the Jimmy Flick fight, but I think he won the Ode Osborne fight. Like, in my opinion, this guy should be 3-0 in the organization, but he has not looked as good as people expected him to, and he's done it as a favorite every single time. It's kind of like Stephanie Egger. People are tired of paying chalk on this man right now, and Cody Durden is a guy who we know has good, solid cardio, a good wrestling base. He's training at a good gym. And frankly, I think people are kind of overselling him here just a little bit. He's got a terrible level of competition here in the UFC. He's got questionable submission defense. And even though he took down Carlos Motta and ground him out, man, that was such a good stylistic fight for him. Motta was fine with taking the back foot. Motta was fine playing off of his back. He's not a wrestler. He's not a takedown guy. And he knocked out Chinny JP Buys. Congratulations. Like, that guy just went through hell, and you were the beneficiary of him surviving Montel Jackson and managed to pick off the pieces, the little bits of meat on that bone. That's what he got that night. I think this is a big time recency bias spot where a lot of people are really high on JP Buys. The fact is, Charles Johnson is the better overall MMA fighter. He's got a striking advantage, and I'm not convinced Cody Durden can take him down. If Cody Durden can't get the wrestling going, he's in trouble in this fight. So this is a great buy low opportunity, in my opinion, on Charles Johnson. And I know you have to take what fighters say in interviews with a little grain of salt because they're always lying to us. But he was talking with my guy, James Lynch, and about how his last fight, you know, he's always in the gym, but he wasn't training seriously. So that cardio advantage we usually look for, he didn't look the same in the third round. He never looks like that in the third round. Frankly, you go back through any of his fights in his career, he's never looked that bad in the third round, not even defending 20 million takedowns against McGhee. So there's no way it was just, oh, Oday's that good. Like, no, the guy had a bad camp. His gas tank wasn't prepared. He said he's healthier than he's been. This is the healthiest he will be coming into a UFC fight. And he's coming off a loss that he wants to get back. And there's bad blood with his opponent because of the Twitter feud. Like, Mike, I can't tell you any more angles that would put me on Charles Johnson in this spot. And I'm getting a lower price tag because everybody and their mother wants to fade this guy. Give it to me. I'm just being patient.
I cannot blame anybody for, like, I agree. I think a lot of this line movement is recency bias. I say this as a Durden backer, but I got him at plus 170. I felt that price was off. I didn't think Charles Johnson should be that much of a favorite. But now that you're bringing him down to minus 140, if I didn't have a bet, I'd probably be maybe leaning the Johnson side. I personally do think that Durden can win this. I think he can out-grapple Johnson. We have seen him get out-wrestled. I mean, I won't even talk about McGhee because that's McGhee. But he got taken down by Zalgas. On the regionals, Yuma Horiguchi got him down a few times. Now, he did defend takedowns against Zalgas. He only got taken down once and barely controlled. I think that's worth noting. I just think that Durden has a different kind of wrestling than Zalgas, a little bit more aggressive. But like you said, if he can't hold him down, he might be in big trouble on the feet. Do I think he's going to be as much of a fish out of water like Jimmy Flick was? No, I don't. I think his striking is actually pretty decent and coming along, but I definitely give the striking edge to Charles Johnson. I just think the wrestling's very live. I know he can do it for an extended period of time. We've seen him fight really good strikers before. Chris Gutierrez comes to mind on his debut, coming up a weight class. Got a draw. Did well for himself. I thought he was going to lose that fight. I had a ton of money on Gutierrez. I was happy with the draw. But, yeah, for here, I like Jimmy Flick. At this current line, I don't know if I would tell you to bet him or not. Jimmy Flick. Cody Durden. I'm sorry. I like Cody Durden here, but I got him at plus 170. This current line I'm not loving. Personally, I would probably stay off if it just me, but I see why you like Charles Johnson at minus 140. And I mean, you might even get a better price. Money's still coming in on Durden.
I'm being patient, man. At this point, I have no plans. My trigger finger is itchy, but it's not doing anything yet because the line just keeps on going down. You know, if I can get minus 120 or something on him, I'll have a field day.
Yeah, that's a good bet. Minus 120 Charles Johnson against Cody Durden is a good bet. But all right, guys, let's move on. I'll keep Durden as my official pick, and he is my bet. Clint, what is that? 3 fights now we disagree on?
Yeah, we are not seeing this card the same way so far tonight.
That's always the best thing, man. We can still both cash our tickets. But this next fight, oh, man, I'm going to have a story. All right, we've got Martin Buday versus Jake Collier. Buday 11-1-0. He's 31 years old, 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. Jake Collier 13-8-0. He's going to be 3 years older, 1 inch shorter. I don't believe that for a second. And he's actually going to have a 2-inch reach advantage about. So here's what I did. I got a little too drunk in one of these previous UFC cards, a few too many White Claws, you might say. And I saw the Martin Buday minus 175 line, and I see Jake Collier next to him. I'm like, yo, steal. And I put 1.75 units on Buday. I wake up the next morning. I look at what I've done, and I'm like, holy fuck. I ran the tape real quick. I was like, bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. So I'm almost fully hedged out. I took Collier plus 130, kind of got myself out of there. If I lose like 0.6 units. If I win 0.3. Terrible, terrible move. And the other thing I'll say about Buday, always gives me bad feelings because I had Lucas Bresky there in their fight at plus 250. I put 2 units, which I almost never do on underdogs, and didn't cash. And I was very, very upset.
You deserve better.
Right? But hey, Jake Collier also got robbed by Arlovsky. I was the beneficiary of that one. I felt dirty, honestly. Yeah, I needed to take a shower after winning that one. But in terms of this matchup, look, Buday's not good, in my opinion. Like, I don't think he's good. I don't think he's a good striker. He's not an offensive wrestler. His game, only need to watch like 3 fights to understand his game. His game is clinching, literally just clinching. He's like the male heavyweight version of like Pennington, or Aspen Ladd might be a better example. Like, he'll just only clinch. And that's why I bet Bresky, because I was like, man, if he just circles out of the clinch, he's going to be bopping him. And you guys all know Bresky, he's not a very good fighter, but he was the much, much better striker there. Look, I love to hate on Fat Collier like anyone else. Makes no sense to me what he's doing at this weight class. He's winning fights he shouldn't be winning. He's losing fights he shouldn't be losing. Chris Barnett couldn't be happier, though. Barnett deserved that win. He had a bunch of shit going on. I'm glad he won. But all that said, looking at the line now, you got Buday becoming the underdog. Then I'm interested in Buday because I do think he's much bigger, and I do think he's going to be able to control him against the fence, and he does do well in the clinch. So at this line, I think it's a decent play. At what I did drunk, terrible, terrible bet. At this line, I think it's a decent bet. I am going to still pick him to win, but if he can't hold Jake Collier against the fence, dude's going to just win via output, in my opinion, Collier. But I'll keep Buday as my pick. What do you think, Clint?
Yeah, man, I'm kind of right there with you. I'm very regretfully picking Buday. I do think he is the real heavyweight in this spot, and I want to see these guys face off because I know Collier is really big, and he was really big for 185, but he's not like a full-blown heavyweight, even though he's kind of moonlighting up there. I think we could be seeing a bigger size difference on Saturday or on Friday than we're expecting based on the numbers, but we'll see. I do think it's just going to be that bullying strength versus volume, like you mentioned. And if Buday is able to get this fight up against the cage, then, you potentially have a problem here with the smaller fighter. But if he's not able to repeatedly pin this man up against the fence, he's going to be chasing him all night. He's going to get outlanded again. And I don't know if he squeezes away with a robbery decision again this time. So I'm going to tentatively pick Buday to say that he gets him up against the fence and he goes to work with those big, powerful knees of his. But there's no way in hell I'm putting my money anywhere near either of these guys.
I love what they've done with the heavyweight division because we have like 5 good guys, and then we have like this tournament circuit at the bottom.
Oh my gosh.
With like Collier, Parker Porter, Vandera, what's his face that's just announced a fight, whatever. It's so funny to me. Yeah. Parisian is who I was thinking of. It's just funny to watch. I hope if Collier loses, I hope they make Collier Bresky. Because honestly, I'm kind of interested in that fight.
That's probably what they do. I don't know if Bresky still has a job, but we'll see.
Hey, he just lost one fight. But 2, but
I was gonna say, isn't it 2? I don't know.
We're gonna call it 1, Clint. We're gonna call it 1. But all right, let's move on to our next one. Did I close it? No, I didn't. Okay. Next up, we've got Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Acosta 9-0, undefeated as a pro, 31 years old. He's 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. On the other side, de Lima 28-1. He's going to be 6 years older at 37, 3 inches shorter, and have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. What do you think for this one, Clint?
Yeah, this one's interesting, man. Especially interesting with the line movement because it's been Marcos Rogerio's team all day. Like, this line is getting wider and wider, and I leaned Marcos Rogerio de Lima a little bit earlier in the week when I broke it down. but I didn't feel good enough to bet it. And now the number's gone. So I'm like, well, I guess hands are staying in my pockets for this one because I'm not betting Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I think this guy is really just reliant on a decision victory here. He's got a nice jab at heavyweight. He's got good footwork. He moves well. So there is some, future upside potentially to Cortes-Acosta. But man, when you're getting your legs beaten off by Chase Sherman, and when you're getting taken down and grounded on by Chase Sherman, that's big red flags. Like, Chase Sherman is the bottom of the barrel in the UFC's heavyweight division. De Lima's a black belt. He's got underrated wrestling. We saw it in his most recent win that he can go to that if he really wants to. He does kind of throw everything into every strike, so he can slow down and gas out, but we have seen him go 15 minutes before, and this guy hits like a truck. So I don't think that in this modern day of damage over everything MMA judging, if this is a 15-minute fight, Waldo's got to outland this guy like 3-1 to get the decision victory. If they hit the ground, De Lima's not playing around. There's going to be ground and pound. There's going to be submission offense. It's not going to be just that let me lay on you and hope that that's enough for me to steal the round back. He'll do something. And then with the leg kicks on the feet, Waldo might not be able to walk by the third round. So I think it's a Marcos Rogerio de Lima spot, but he is also notoriously untrustworthy. He can go in hard for that first round and then just die. So I'm not going to put my money on him at this line. I think there was definitely some opportunity maybe earlier on before the line got extended. I'm picking Marcos Rogerio de Lima, but it's another big old sloppy heavyweight fight. I just don't think I need to have any investment here.
Speaking of the little circuit I was talking about, I just checked. So, who was it that I was just looking at? Chase Sherman's fighting Carl Williams next.
Oh my goodness. And you know what though? Can I just give props for 2 seconds to Chase Sherman? Because this man came to the UFC. He got his ass beat. He got cut. And then he said, you know what, guys? Like, let me just get jumped 2 or 3 more times. I'll come back. You can have someone whip my ass. Just pay me. And they went, you know what? We can't get anybody else to fight Romanov. Fine, kid. Come on back. And he's been with us ever since. He's got 2 wins in the UFC, but he's got like 12 fights. Like, this guy is getting paid top tier at this point on TV. Looks like a supermodel up at heavyweight. Somehow, after all the beatings he's taken, he still has a pretty face. And he's making money. Like, I gotta hand it to Chase Sherman. The man is doing the damn thing, and he's still not on the regional circuit. So props to Chase Sherman for pulling it off.
On his Sam Alvey stuff.
That's right. He knows where the bodies are hidden, man.
But yeah, so for me, I mean, I played De Lima early, minus 135. I wouldn't, and only for a unit, like not even enough to win a unit back, just 1 unit's sake, because I can't trust him much. And this current line disgusts me. Minus 176. I think that's nasty. Look, he's undersized for heavyweight, first of all. He's pretty small. This wasn't his original weight class. Acosta's very much so a real heavyweight. Big man. All that said, though, like you said, he's just a striker, a boxer. He doesn't have crazy power. And his output's good. Got to give it to him. He's got good output. But the ground game isn't there, and I think De Lima's smart enough to go straight to the ground. I have doubted De Lima time and time again. The Ben Rothwell fight, I went heavy on Ben. I know you had De Lima, and I think you went big on him too, and you cashed that one. You were on point with that knockout. And then the Ivanov fight, I bet Ivanov. I know a lot of people felt that it was De Lima who won. I don't know. I'm biased, but it was a close fight, and Ivanov is not one of these bum low-level heavyweights that I was talking about. He's a legit fighter, and to fight close with him, to take him down, it's impressive. It's impressive. And then he finishes Arlovsky, chokes him out. I think that he's going to be able to ground Acosta. How he finishes him, I can't tell you. I do think he finishes him. Let me check what the props are. Rogerio KO plus 205, submissions plus 500. Depending what they give us on FanDuel for sub, that might be something I look at. Maybe a submission.
Those numbers are too short for me, man. I don't feel like they're giving us the value I want to take that shot, if I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, plus 500. No, I'm hoping like plus 7, plus 800. That I would take a shot on, I think.
Yeah. That's probably why they're not giving it to us.
Yep. But, all right, let's move on to another fight. For this one, we've got Julian Erosa versus Fernando Padilla. Erosa 28, 10 and 0. He's 33 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Padilla on the other side, 14, 4 and 0. He's going to be, what is this? I am not a math person. Sorry, guys. 7 years younger, same height, 1-inch reach advantage. I'll start us off for this one. I did the tape, and honestly, like Padilla to me seems like he has a very similar style to Erosa. Like they really remind me of each other. And he also hasn't fought in almost 2 years. That's also very important to note. I personally think Erosa is very much the side here. I love everything about him. I know he just got knocked out with that head kick, but Caceres is on a run. Caceres is on a run that I never expected, but the guy's looking great, and I'm not going to take anything away from Erosa over a knockout in the first round. Those things happen. You don't know how the fight would have played out. Regardless, I mean, look at the Dawodu fight, right? I mean, if he, like, that was fantastic. I got him as the underdog there. I was so happy with myself because everyone was on Dawodu, and, you know, it made sense, but I just I felt like Erosa could pull it out, and I like his striking more. I think he's more developed there. I think he's a bit more crisp. His output is fantastic. He's just going to keep coming for you. His wrestling, you know, he can wrestle. He can get taken down though as well. Not the best takedown defense, and he can be, you know, I don't know. He can be controlled a little bit, but Padilla is a wrestler. He's a grappler. He's got 8 submission wins. I think he's more comfortable there. I just don't think he's really going to have too much success. Erosa never been submitted, and I do think he has a good ability to bring fights back up to the feet if he is taken down. So I have to like Erosa, especially at these odds. I mean, I love the pressure of him, and especially in this time with these judges, like I want to bet on guys I know are going to fight for my money, and Julian Erosa will fight for your money until either he wins the fight or he's sleeping on the canvas. So I wasn't going to touch him at the price it originally was at. I mean, he opened minus 300, believe it or not, which is crazy. But line closed up. He's minus 138 on Bet Online. I saw that on my train ride home before the show, and I was like, all right, done playing that. So I put 1.4 units on Erosa. I just think he's the better guy. Fought the better competition, proven it against better competition, extremely similar styles to me. So give me Erosa at this close price. How about you, Clint?
Man, this is going to be another one that we do not see eye to eye on. So I actually lean the other direction here. You know, you broke it down really well, and I hear everything that you're saying. You've got the back class, you've got the experience of Julian Erosa, but man, that Caceres fight, I'll tell you, I've been telling everybody for the last year or so, I'm like, this run that Julian Erosa on will not last. Like, the man is chinny. He's going to war, and it's just a matter of time before he gets knocked out again. We've seen it time and time again. That durability fails him. He is more than willing to brawl, and it's not like you have to hit him perfectly on the button to put him out. He can get cracked. He gets cracked in every fight. Now, he's been able to survive some of these spots. He's been able to get through it and work his way to a decision, or, you know, in the case of like Jourdain, you know, outpace his opponent and then finish him in the third. And it's been spectacular. But I think he's striking a little bit above his weight class right now. So I've been waiting for the chance to fade this guy and really jump on that chin again. But I said, you know what, though? It's not going to be Alex Caceres. It's not this week. It'll be the next fight. Whoever he gets after Alex Caceres is going to be the guy that I jump on to bet, because I actually thought he could get by Alex Caceres. Now, you look back at Alex Caceres' record, man, and why did I think he was not going to get knocked out by Alex Caceres? Because Bruce Leroy has 4, count them, 4 knockouts in his entire career. The man is 20-13, and he has 4 total knockouts, including the Julian Erosa KO. You know what one came before that? A doctor stoppage TKO due to an eye injury in 2017. That's not even a real knockout. Like, this man is a decisionator. He is not a KO artist. Now, he's showing some fresh new wrinkles. He's training at the MMA lab. Like, he's getting better. So, okay, I'm not going to take anything from him. But the fact is, a guy who is not known for his KO power is the one who got it done against Julian Erosa, who's extremely, extremely chinny. Hakeem Dawodu, he didn't, you know, he got by Hakeem. That's great. I was on Hakeem. I thought Hakeem would win that fight. No problem. But you know what? Hakeem has yet to finish somebody at the UFC level. He's got 7 KOs, none at the UFC level. And look at his other opponent, Steven Peterson. that's kind of a throwaway, man. Like, I really think that Julian Erosa is getting a little bit overblown at this point in his career. And then you look at his opponent. Now, we don't know anything about this kid. He's a young, fresh face. He's making his UFC debut, but he's 26 years old from Mexico. And that's a big factor to me. I mean, if you want me to just break out the tinfoil cap now, like the UFC is pushing Mexico super hard right now. And this is what they're looking for. This is where they're expanding to. They're getting all kinds of young, hungry talent from Mexico. That's where this kid's from. 2-year layoff. Looked improved in his stand-up in his last fight. In fact, he won his last fight with a slick, nasty elbow, man. Like, this kid is good. And I think with a 2-year layoff, he's just going to be better. I actually think this is a spot where the UFC is dog-walking Julian Erosa and is going, hey, we know we've got a shot. We know we've got a kid that can knock this guy out. Let's just lead him on over here and give him the chance to flash. And I think that's what is going to happen here. I think he's getting an opponent that is a step up in competition, but he's got the skill to handle that step up in competition. And I think we see a highlight reel knockout for Padilla's UFC debut, man. I really do. The last thing that I wanted to mention before we got any further beyond this, or if you had a rebuttal, of course, it's your podcast. I got to give you a minute to talk. But Julian Erosa, you look back at his KO losses, man. Alex Caceres, Sungwoo Choi, Julio Arce, Devonta Smith. Like, what do these guys have in common? Because their skill level is all up and down like this. But the one thing all those guys have in common is they're these long-ass, lanky fighters. I think that body type really is what gets Julian Erosa, because he does a good job of protecting his chin. He does a good job of avoiding that big explosive counterpunch. He gets out of the way against the smaller fighters. But when you've got someone that can match his height and reach, they find that chin. And you look at this kid Padilla, he is long. He's big for the weight class. He's tall. He's lanky. He's got long limbs. He's got good boxing. I think Padilla is the side on this one, man. It's dog or pass for me. I haven't bet it yet. I do have a little bit of something for you, though. Haven't told anybody this yet, so exclusive here on the Couch Warrior Pod. You guys know I'm sponsored by Superbook Sports. They talk to me about like the sharp action that comes across the desk and stuff like that. They're number one better. Like the guy they move lines for when he makes a decision or comes in and places action. Came in on Padilla at plus 150. He's plus 130 now. So they moved that line 20 cents because of the action that came in with their number one mixed martial arts gambler. So that would, like, I was this close on Padilla already. Hearing that the number one guy at Superbook that does MMA is on him as well, that's probably going to push me over the edge, and I'm probably going to take the shot, man. And I know he missed a bet not too long ago, but this is a guy that bet like in the original Israel Adesanya fight, he bet on Alex Pereira like as soon as the line opened. You know how they do like the futures odds and stuff like that? Superbook actually had a much shorter line on Pereira for months before that fight. You could find a better number on any other book because this guy came in and smashed Pereira way before anybody was talking about that fight. Like, he knows his shit. So again, just information for you guys. I haven't bet it yet myself, so I'm telling you what happened. I haven't touched it, but I'm probably going to bet Padilla on Saturday.
Yeah, fair game. Fair game. Only counter I have, which is also able to be countered by you because Sungwoo Choi and Caceres don't have big KO power, is that Arce, in my opinion, is a really good counter striker and boxer, which Padilla isn't. And
no rebuttal. He's great.
Yeah, and Devonta Smith is just, his power has always been his thing, right? Which I don't think Padilla has. But then again, like I said, Sungwoo Choi knocked him out, and so did Caceres. So definitely fair points. Closer line now. But like Clint said, like, I don't have insider info. I've only got what's open to other people. But looks like the public is all on Erosa, and the money's all on Padilla. So take that for as you may. But for me personally, I went with the commodity I know in Erosa.
Fair enough.
And we can move on to our next one. So this fight's an interesting one. We've got Cody Brundage versus Rodolfo Vieira. Brundage 8-3-0, 28 years old. He's 6 feet tall with the 72-inch reach. Factory X for him. Vieira 8-2-0, 33. He's 5 years older. Same height, 1-inch reach advantage. I don't have his camp. I felt like he trained at Top Team, but I might be wrong there. It's Grappling Fight Team from Tapology. Why don't you start us off, Clint?
Man, I've said it time and time again, and I'm just going to keep repeating myself. I do not know, and I do apologize, man. I'm being extremely rude here right now. Let me get this.
You're good.
I
You're
got to
good.
get my. I'm watching my hockey, and I got a goal scorer prop here, so I got to get my little Bink tweet out here for everybody who follows my degeneracy.
Did it hit?
Yeah, Adrian Kempe just scored a goal in
Nice.
the Kings and Oilers game. Plus 180. Nice little number. Got plus 250 on Brock Nelson. Your boy's back. I'm having a good night in hockey. All right.
Good stuff,
So
Clint.
on this one, man, I just can't get Brundage right. Like, I cannot make it easy on myself. I've bet on this guy. I've bet against this guy. Can't do it. Like, I think his 2 wins in the UFC are both Hail Mary come from behind spots. He was getting his ass whooped by Dolce before he grabbed the neck. He was getting beaten by Tresean Gore pretty handily. I know people might disagree with me on that one, but he was on the back foot the entire fight and then landed like 1 or 2 counter shots. And then the nuke. Like, he was not in that fight. He was retreating the whole time. And yeah, maybe you can say he set his shot up or something. What? Okay, whatever, fine. But he lost 4 minutes of the first round. He was on his way to being down 1-0 on the scorecards. And then he gets dominant position on Michal Oleksiejczuk, who's not a good grappler. We've seen that be his weakness before. Loses position on him and then doesn't even have the wherewithal to like kick up and get back to his feet or get on a leg, or like he got his ass beat from inside his guard, man. Like, that's a massive red flag. When your guard is open, you're getting knocked in the face and it's enough to hurt you and knock you out. That's just, I don't want to be putting my money in that kind of a situation. Now, before somebody like clips this and makes me look really bad, I love Cody Brundage. He's a great dude. He's a nice guy. We've gone back and forth on Twitter a couple of times. I am rooting for him. Like, I want to see him find his footing in the UFC. He's young. He's at a good gym. You can obviously see the physicality. He can go places if he turns that corner. I just think this is a really bad matchup for him. Like, Rodolfo Vieira might be more than willing to engage in a bit of a staring contest on the feet, so maybe he'll be okay striking in this spot. Rodolfo Vieira is not a fantastic kickboxer. He's got a solid jab on him, but once they get into the grappling realm, that's Cody's best attribute, is being able to take people down. I don't know that he's out wrestling Rodolfo Vieira. And if you're going for arm triangles and losing them on Oleksiejczuk, I don't know that he can grapple with Rodolfo Vieira. So, like, I have a hard time with this one, finding a shot on the dog, man. I'm going to be cheering for Cody because he's a great dude and I want to see him win. But I think it's a pretty solid Vieira spot. I don't mind violence, though, because I think Rodolfo Vieira obviously can take this guy down and tap him out pretty much at will. And then if Brundage is going to win, it's a nuke. He's going to clip this guy early. He's going to catch him in a transition. It's going to be some freak thing that happens. That's all we've seen from him. I don't trust him to win like a 15-minute decision or something like that. So, yeah, I think under is probably the way to go. I don't like the 1.5. I might parlay like the doesn't go the distance or something like that instead. I would be looking violence, and I lean with the favorite.
Yeah, you hit a lot of the points I was going to go over. Like, I really wanted to bet Brundage at these dog odds, knowing Vieira's cardio, looking at, the splits and whatnot. I mean, all the public is on Vieira and all the money is on Brundage. So it makes you think, but running the tape, I can't find an angle on Brundage. I can't. Like, what is he going to do better here than Vieira? I think even the striking is probably going to go to Vieira. Like, Vieira has looked good in the boxing and the striking. To go 3 rounds with Chris Curtis on the feet, not get knocked out, pretty much equal in the output, land your own good shots, won for the first round on all 3 judges' scorecards. Like, how is Brundage going to outstrike him? And then Brundage is a wrestler. He's a really good one. But how the hell is he going to out-wrestle Vieira when he got out-controlled by Maximov for 9 minutes of the fight? I don't see it. He needs Vieira to gas, but I think we're overblowing the whole cardio thing with Vieira. It happened one time against Anthony Hernandez. And since then, round 3 finish against Stoltzfus, 3 rounds against Chris Curtis, and his output did not wane in round 3. He kept up at the same pace. He landed a ton of shots. I think that cardio thing was overblown. I think that was specific to the Anthony Hernandez fight. And I don't see Brundage being able to do that here. I just don't. I think that Vieira is going to finish him. I'm not going to touch it. I don't want any money on this personally, just in case Vieira's cardio does tank or Brundage is somehow a better wrestler. But I just really don't see it. So Vieira is definitely my pick, but I'm not going to touch the fight, I think.
So the one thing that I guess I can say is if Brundage goes to the fluffy game plan, I think it's possible that he can pull something like that off. I really do. But I'm not sure he's got the fluffy cardio himself to go with it. And that's just because I haven't seen it. Like, I would love to say that he is super live for that game plan. He does have a couple of, I think he's got a couple of later finishes on his record. So, I mean, maybe we're overlooking that a little bit. Oh, he's got the round 3 arm triangle from his LFA fight looking back at it. And that's the only one. I guess he's got a round 2 from way earlier in his career. But he's going to have to like go toe to toe with Vieira. That submission defense is going to have to be on point for him to pull that shit off. To his credit, he has never been submitted. So it's possible, but I think he's going to find himself in some hairy situations first. I would look, and you know what? Mr. X beat me to it. I would look to maybe live bet Brundage if he can get out of round 1, because I'll bet you he probably has better cardio over 15 straight minutes than Rodolfo Vieira does. But much like what was the fight with my girl Vanessa Hardy, I had to make sure she survived the ground before I could jump in. You know what I mean? Like if he can,
Did you hit that?
Oh hell yeah, dude! The Vanessa Hardy. So I bet
Nice.
that one pre-flop. And then as soon as I saw her winning those scrambles, I got more in live. So like that was a huge win for me.
Sick.
That's kind of what I would look to do here. I don't think I'm betting Cody pre-flop, but I will happily jump in if 2 minutes into the fight, he's looking like the fresher man. He's pushing the pace and he's like rolled out of an armbar or something. And I've seen that he can stop the offense of Vieira. Then I will take some live on the dog, but not until I see it. He's got to show me that he can do that first.
I will say I forgot the one play I do have on this fight so far is Brundage round 2 plus 1200. I put a 1/10 of a unit on it, and I do plan on adding round 3 as well. I'm just waiting for the other books like FanDuel and stuff. I think they're going to give something better, but yeah, I think that's the only thing I'm going to leave because I do think Brundage loses, but like Clint said, like cardio can come into play, and then Brundage can pick it up and win round 2, win in round 3. I don't know, so I'm just going to keep those sprinkles. That's all I've got.
I don't mind it.
And we can move on. I know you don't, Clint. You love those round 3 props. You're the one who taught them to me.
Talk me into the degeneracy, baby. It's like Mike. That's like talking dirty to me. Me and the wife lay down, and she's like, "Round 3 sub, round 3 sub." Oh.
I'm weak. But damn. Okay. All right.
Sorry. Getting off the rails.
That was fantastic. But moving on to the next fight, we've got Caio Borralho versus Michal Alekseeva. Borralho, he's 13-1-0, 30 years old, 6'1" with the 75-inch reach. Fighting nerds for him. Worst tattoo, in my opinion, in the UFC. Alekseijczuk, 18-5-0, 2 years younger at 28, 1 inch shorter, 1 inch reach disadvantage. Ankos MMA for him. Forgot who started us the last time. I think it was you, Clint. I'll start us off. I mean, I'm a big Borralho guy. I always have been. Always saw his potential. Backed him in what was the fight that was very close? The Godzilla fight. Not the fight was close. The line was close. He dominated. But since then, like, I mean, I know people find him boring, but like, dude, he just beat Mahmoud Muradov. He just like that's a much better fighter than Michal Alekseijczuk. What's up?
Did he though?
That's fair. That's fair. But in terms of this fight, like I have to like Borralho. I like Michal. I love everything about him. I was talking about with Erosa, a fighter who fights for your money. You've got that with Michal. I mean, the guy will fight till he's dead or his opponent is dead. But I just think he's going to get out grappled. I really do. Borralho's decent on the feet, fights long, striking is clean. The output just isn't really there. On the feet, like if this is a boxing match for some reason, Michal's going to win, I think. I just don't think it's going to be a boxing match. I think Borralho is just going to dominate on the ground. Is he going to submit him? Is he going to win by decision? I can't tell you. I played him the second the line opened, I think, or maybe shortly thereafter. Yeah, shortly after. It opened at minus 245. I hit it at minus 285. I put 5 units on it, big bet, and just left it alone there. That's all I'm going to do. Not going to play with the methods, nothing like that. Found a spot where I think the guy's going to win this fight very many times more than he would lose it. So I'm going to go with Borralho here. How about you, Clint?
Okay. Yeah, man. The one thing I'll say though is he's only got the worst tattoo in the UFC since Masvidal retired. That stupid Air Masvidal diamond encrusted shoulder that he's got. What the hell was that? You had to know his career was going downhill as soon as he got that tattoo. Man, I agree with you here. I definitely think that Borralho is the side here. And I've been impressed with this guy, even though I felt like, and maybe I'm insane because I must be like the only person on the planet that felt like Muradov won that fight. But I really felt like Borralho was on his back for like 12 of the 15 minutes. Like, I have no idea how people scored that for Caio. I thought Muradov won that fight clearly. The Petrosian fight, super competitive, super close. You know, like you said, he did win the Omar Gadzhiev fight, but at the end of the day, regardless of whether I agree with the decisions or not, those were close, competitive fights against fighters that I have some serious respect for and seriously think have big time upside. Petrosian is a monster. Muradov is a monster. Like, he's 3-0 with some great names to start his run in the UFC on his record. So I'm high on this guy. And I also think he's very good at being all in or all out. You know, we know that his opponent here is coming down from 205. Oleksiejczuk did some decent work up at 205, but his real thing is crashing the pocket, fast hands, you know, hit you with those combos in close. And he's going to struggle to close the range against Caio. And then when he does close the range, he's going to end up with a takedown. He's going to have the body lock. He's going to get dragged to the floor. So I think Caio's going to do a good enough job of being all in or all out to keep this fight where he wants it. And then that's going to give him clear path to victory here to win this thing. And frankly, man, I think that he's going to get a submission win because we have seen that be the problem for Oleksiejczuk. You know, I thought Brundage was going to be able to do more in the grappling realm, but like, you go back to the OSP fight, man, nobody should be getting Von Flue. I know that's OSP's thing, but nobody should be getting Von Flue at the UFC level. It's too simple to avoid and defend. They teach you that shit day one jiu-jitsu. It shouldn't happen. The Jimmy Crute fight, he got smoked in round one on the ground with Jimmy Crute. So, like, I definitely think the play is Caio, and I think the play is Caio by sub. It seems like maybe it's almost a little too easy, but the guy has shown his toughness. He's been chin checked, so even if he does get the pocket crashed on him and he does get hit once or twice by Michal, I think he can make it through that. Again, I kind of like violence here, man. I could see both these guys finishing in this spot. I think under is a good bet, and I'm leaning with Caio by sub.
Yeah, man. Sometimes the most obvious path, like, you think like, oh, it's too obvious, and then it ends up being just, it was always that.
Correct.
But who knows? Let's move on. This fight we certainly disagree on, so I'm hyped to talk about it. That's always way more fun. We've got Song Yadong versus Ricky Simón. Song, he's 19-7-1. He's 25 years old, which is insane. He has, what is this? 27 fights. He's 25. 5'8" with the 67-inch reach. Alpha male for him. Simón, 23-0. He's going to be 5 years older at 30. 2 inches shorter. Going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, though. I've got ATT Portland. I'm going to double check that, though. Clint talks. Clint, why don't you start us off, brother?
Man, I love this fight, and I feel very strongly about it. It's going to get interesting here for this main event breakdown, I'm sure. So, Song Yadong and Ricky Simón are both guys that I've gotten my winners column. They're both guys that I've put money on and bet on and made cash on. Like, I've been calling for Ricky Simón to get that fight with Sean O'Malley. I feel like this is the guy to expose Sean O'Malley's weakness in the grappling realm. Like, I've wanted that for years.
Didn't you make a TikTok and get flamed for it?
What's that?
Didn't you make like a TikTok after Sean O'Malley ducked him and you got so much shit?
I did. I poked the bear with the O'Malley fan base. And honestly, man, it's why I've got half the followers I do, because the views on TikTok when you piss off the O'Malley fan base are great.
Good to know.
So it's funny, man. If I ever meet Sean in person, I'm going to have to do the like, I'm sorry thing. Cause it's like, I don't actually hate the guy. It's just that pissing off his fan base is good for business. So I keep doing it. I want to see that fight take place. I want to see if he's capable of, avoiding the grappling or defending the takedowns of somebody like Ricky Simón. Never going to happen. The UFC's bubble wrapped him. They're going to protect him. It's not going to happen until he's got the belt. Anyway,
I think he's going to get the next shot.
I think so
personally.
too. I think so too. Coming off of 2 questionable wins, they're going to shoo him right into that title shot. So in this spot, I think this is an excellent matchup as far as you've got Ricky Simón, who's shown some new wrinkles to his game, shown some improved head movement. He's shown that he's got power on the feet now. He's an aggressive finisher, whereas he used to seem like kind of a grindy decisionator type of guy. He's improving. He's got new wrinkles. It's good stuff. Now, his opponent, Song, this kid is young. Like, I know there's talk about him maybe, fudging his birth certificate or some shit. I don't know. I can't prove any of that stuff. It says he's 25. I'm going to go with 25. So he's a super young kid. He's training at a solid gym where he is just the star. Everybody is pouring all their resources into making this kid the champion. And look at the people he has fought at this age. I mean, you have got Cody Stamen, who's a solid longtime gatekeeper, and this was years ago. Marlon Chito Vera, Kyler Phillips, while he was on the good stuff. Casey Kenny, Julio Arce, Marlon Moraes, former champion. Corey Sandhagen, most recently, who's a guy that's been in the contender circle for some time. Like, this kid has been knocking on the door of being a true contender in this weight class for the last 3 years. And he's still just 25 years old and getting better every time we see him. He is fast. He's got slick striking, which is still improving, by the way. He's adding new wrinkles to that striking game every single time we see him. He's got knockout power, and we have seen him quite literally do the splits to avoid a takedown and still have the hip strength to defend the takedown while in a full split. That's some Chuck Norris level shit. Like, I can't wrap my brain around just what Song's ceiling is because I still don't think we've seen it. And man, you go back to his last fight with Corey Sandhagen, it was 2-2 going into the 5th. That was his first ever main event. That was his first ever 5-round fight. And a lot of the narrative was, what are we going to see? Is he capable of going 25 minutes? Not only was he capable, but he was even on the scorecards and, in my opinion, had the momentum going into the round 5. So if that fight hadn't been stopped from the cut, I thought he was on his way to winning that one, man. I really felt he had a good shot to win that fight. And here he is, the underdog to Ricky Simón. Now, Ricky, he's also been around forever, but his resume is not nearly as impressive. Like, the Jack Shore win is great, but Jack Shore, he kind of audited Jack Shore. We found out Jack Shore wasn't what he thought he was. We found out Jack Shore doesn't belong in that weight class. Like, things are a little iffy about that fight. He fought the shell of a Sun Sao, and he went with the, Cody Garbrandt Hail Mary, overhand game plan, and it worked out great for him in that spot. But I can't give you too much credit for beating 41-year-old Rafael Assunção. He beat Brian Kelleher. That's great. But man, you know what the real elite fighters in this weight class do with Brian Kelleher? They tap him out. This man went to a decision with Boom, and that's no disrespect on Boom. I love Brian Kelleher. But if he's really that good, he should have finished him. And then before that, it was Gaetano Perillo and Ray Borg, guys that don't have jobs anymore. He lost to, Rob Font. He lost to Uriah Faber, notably by knockout. So I think that Ricky Simón is legit. I think he's very impressive. I think he's got a lot of upside. But a lot of people think he's got the edge in a 5-round fight. There's no proof of that. I don't see why we think he's got the edge in a 5-round fight. He's gone hard for 3, and that's great. But he's never been 5. I know for a fact on the other side of this cage that you've got Song Yadong who can go hard for 25 minutes, defend takedowns, and still be there in that 5th round. We know that for fact. So I'm very interested in this fight, and I think that the 5-round edge is either a wash or, frankly, it goes ever so slightly to Song. On the feet, I know Ricky has been impressive recently, but he's not as good of a striker as Song Yadong. And I will not listen to anybody who tries to tell me otherwise. That should not be a disputable fact. Song Yadong is better on the feet. He's got more power when it comes to his striking. Now, if we're talking like standstill punching machine, Dragon Ball Z style, bite down and throw as hard as you can, and we'll see a number at the end, Ricky probably hits harder than Song. But if we're throwing combos, if we're being smooth, I think shot for shot, every time Song lands, it's going to be harder than what Ricky can muster unless he's biting down on a Hail Mary swing. And then when it comes to the grappling, I've seen Song defend takedowns. I talked about the splits he did. I'm not convinced that Ricky can hold him down for 15 minutes. So if he's getting the edge on the feet, we've seen judges favoring the damage over the control recently. That puts an edge on Song, in my opinion, already. But even if Ricky Simón controls Song Yadong for a full 15 minutes, I've got 2 more rounds for him to find the chin. I'm not convinced that Ricky can grind Song for 25 straight minutes and not pay for it in this spot. I think the wrong guy's favored, man. I think Song should have been like a minus 130 in this spot, other way around. So I got in big. I may be overextending just a little bit. This is the biggest bet that I have made this year. And I've got 5 units on Song Yadong. I put 2 at plus 110. And that's been kind of my personal max, is I'm only going 2 units on anything this year. And then that line moved. Everybody and their mom on Twitter is betting on Ricky Simón. Everybody's on Ricky. And the line dropped. Plus 105 Song. Plus 100 Song. Minus 105 Song. And I'm going, I think in my soul that I'm on the right side of this fight. Now, that's just my opinion. It's a close fight. It's relatively coin flippy. I'm already talking about thin value going from plus 110 to minus 130. But I feel like I've got the right spot here. So I jumped in for 3 more units at even money on Song Yadong, man. I had to. I'm willing to put my nutsack on the table and either go out a hero or be the fool on Twitter again. This is my spot. I think Song Yadong gets right after his last fight where he showed us that he's a contender. I think the true contender stands up on Saturday, and I think Song is going to show us that he's the legitimate fighter here in this division.
So, all right, few points I want to hit. First thing is, Ricky Simón has fought 5 rounds. He has gone 5 rounds. It was in 2017 outside of the UFC, yes, but I'm seeing way too much. He's never done 5 rounds. He has, in fact, it's him and not Yadong who have made it 5 rounds, because Song Yadong has only had 1 5-rounder, and he only made it to round 4.
That's fair.
He definitely had the cardio to keep going, but my point is, it's not a valid point to say that Simon's the one who hasn't gone 5 rounds, because it's just not true.
I didn't realize that fight went 5. You're right, though.
Yeah. I had to look through it because I kept getting that from people, and I was like, "Yo, I'm pretty positive. I know he's gone 5." So I looked back.
Okay.
And I do feel that the 5 rounds is actually going to favor him. Yes, you can say Song was fighting a high pressure striker in Corey Sandhagen. That's another counter I heard, but that's a striker. We don't know how he's going to look when he's being tackled for 5 rounds. We haven't seen that with Song Yadong. And that's probably what Ricky Simón's going to do. Yeah, his striking has improved, but I don't think he's going to pull Curtis Blades here. I don't think he's going to sit here and think it's a good idea to strike with this guy. Can you hang? Probably you can hang. Are you going to win? Probably not. You need to wrestle. You need to do what you're good at. And that's what he does. And a few other things I wanted to just point out, right? So Jack Shore, I think that's really impressive personally. Like, Jack Shore to me was a stud. I had Jack Shore in that fight. I was pretty surprised by the outcome. He's a fantastic grappler. That Makwan Amirkhani fight, I mean, classic Makwan fight, wins the first round and then loses. But hey, up a weight class, he's still winning the grappling. The Sun Sao fight, right? I would tend to agree with you. Like your old rule that I remember from watching your show, don't bet on 40-year-old fighters unless you got a good reason, right?
Yep.
Sun Sao's been looking pretty good. That Victor Henry fight, right? Yes, Victor Henry maybe wasn't himself, but he beat Victor Henry as like a plus 200 dog. That Davy Grant fight, he was winning that damn fight. I had so much money on Davy Grant.
Oh my God, dude.
I was watching that fight. I was like, man, how are you?
That was the funniest shit, because I literally went on another show and I was like, he never wins by sub late in this fight. It's like, it's only ever going to be a knockout. And what does he do? He goes out and makes me look like a fool and wins exactly by round 3 seconds.
And in an inverted triangle in like a way that I've never even seen. Like, dude, I mean, was I happy? Hell yeah, I was happy. I cashed.
We know nothing.
But yeah, like, that's why, like, to me, like, yeah, on paper, Sun Sao's not impressive, but I mean, the guy's still doing the thing. He retired though, right? After the last one.
He hung it up after that one.
Thank God. But you know, he was still doing the damn thing, pulling a Glover. Kelleher, like you said, pretty good win. And then before then, yeah, Gaetano Pereiro he fights. But hey, he handled him accordingly, submitted him in the second round. Before that, Ray Borg split decision. I don't know how I feel about that one, but Borg's a good fighter. I know there's all been, dude, how crazy. He missed weight, gets dropped by his management, and retires in one day. I know you had a bet on him. I was like looking at that fight super closely. I thought I liked Horiguchi, and then I just couldn't believe it. What happened? That was crazy.
No, absolutely. Dude, if we can just tangent for a second, like he set himself up so badly for failure in that spot.
Why
like,
125?
Why 125? You know you struggle. You get a big call from finally a large organization. You're not fighting on the regional scene anymore. It's not Khabib's place. Like, you've got a shot.
One win and a title shot, probably.
Yeah, like they're bringing you in against Horiguchi. Like, that speaks to the level that they believe you're capable of fighting at. Even if he lost that fight, your first fight is Horiguchi. Like, that's unheard of. They really thought this guy was going to be something here. And why 125? He hasn't made 125 in years. Like, I just simply don't understand. If this same exact thing happens and they do the fight at 135, he still has a job. Like, that, maybe it was a stipulation from Kyoji.
He actually didn't make 135, Clint. They tried. He didn't make it.
But I mean, just even agreeing to the fight at 125, like, setting yourself up for a failure there because you knew that wasn't happening. I was hoping he would miss weight and I'd get a good number on the fat kid.
Yeah, honestly, I'm sad we didn't get to see that fight. But long story short, I think Simone's competition has been pretty solid. I mean, the win over Montel Jackson, I know it's 2018, but that's impressive to me. The Rob Font fight, you know, that might be something you look at when you're looking at this fight. Rob Font, a great striker, a great boxer. Song Yadong, great striker, great boxer. Simone lost that fight, but that was a while ago. Sorry, 2019. I personally think the wrestling is going to do the job. That's what I think. And I think that when it comes down to what side people are betting, it really comes down to two things. Who you think is going to last 5 rounds better, and whether you think Ricky Simone's wrestling is going to be able to work. Because if you think it's going to work, then you're not going to bet Song Yadong. Exactly. And if you think it's not going to work, you're not going to bet Ricky Simone. You're going to bet Song. And then again, same thing with the 5 rounds. Whoever you think has the edge, like that should mean something. Me and Clint see it differently. Yep. And that's probably how everybody is. I mean, even the betting splits I was looking at, it's pretty much even. It's going to be a really good fight. I think the real
that's why it's a coin flip, man. You hit the nail on the head.
Winners. But yeah, I'm really hype, honestly. Like, I'm glad they did this. Like, took it off last week's card, main event it, put 5 rounds. As it is, like, these guys should be in, like, not title contention, but pre-title contention, right? Like, one more fight before the number 1 contender fight. Like, 5 rounds, main event, love it. So,
dude, this division's so stacked. I don't even know if it's one fight until a title shot. Like, these guys, it's so insane how stacked this weight class is. They should be 1 fight away, but unfortunately, it's probably 2 away just because of the amount of awesome fighters we have in like the top 10 here for this weight class. But I'm right there with you. I think this was a golden opportunity, and I think it's rare the UFC wins this big. They finally got a good one, man. This is a fight that never belonged in the co-main event slot. This is a fight that absolutely belonged under the big lights in a big spot, and they're going to highlight it. I love it. I absolutely love that this fight is getting the main event treatment.
Honestly, though, would have been cool if they replaced the Rosenstruck Almeida main event with this one. Can you believe that's a main event?
No, I cannot. Man, we're in the depths of despair right now for the next couple of weeks. We're in that lull because everybody who's anybody is booked in International Fight Week. The UFC machine has got to keep churning. They've got that deal with ESPN. We got to get fights out every single week, but they're saving the good shit for the International Fight Week cards that are coming up here in just a couple of months. So it's going to be slim pickings here for a few weeks, but as long as it's entertaining, I'm okay.
Hey, next week is lit. 288. I should be there. I say should because my tickets are coming from my brother who's getting them from his boss, and his boss is as reliable as a condom with a hole in it. So we'll see if I end up there. I'm supposed to be there, and I'm very excited. I mean, bro,
Nice.
Bryce Mitchell, Evloev, extremely hyped for. When
I
they
love that
announced
fight.
Bilal Gilbert Burns, I know people think Bilal's boring, but like, I love it. I mean, the arc on this guy. Remember the fucking name. Everyone doubts him, and he just keeps winning and winning and winning. I'm done fading the guy. After the Luque fight, I was like, I'm done. And then
He's
I
a
hit.
money train.
I played his money line today, and like people came at me again as usual. They're like, "Why not just his decision, bro? You saw in the last fight, why not decision? Everyone thought he can't knock out Sean Brady, and I played his money line, got the same shit, and I cashed, and the people who played the decision didn't. You never know. You never know. It's MMA. Of course, I think he wins the decision. I don't think he knocks out Burns, and I don't think he subs him, but he's a dog. Why get fancy?
What's the decision? Plus 160? Like, what are you getting for playing?
That's what I'm saying. The books aren't even going to make it much better, right? Because they know Bilal. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
All right, Clint. Before we wrap it up, though, while we're talking about 288, I want to hear your opinion. Sterling Cejudo, who you got?
Oh, it's so hard, man. I have such a hard time with this fight. So Cejudo, speaking of money trains, that was my guy. Like, I was one of the very few people who just bought on Cejudo from the beginning. And I mean, we're talking, I cashed money line and KO prop on Cejudo for both the TJ fights. Like, I made hand over fist cash on Henry Cejudo when he was in his element. So I have a big time vividness bias wanting to go back to the well with Henry Cejudo. I worry about the size difference. Aljamain is going to move up a weight class, and he's not going to look out of place at all taking on much larger opponents. I got to think that the caliber of wrestler that Henry Cejudo is, and even maybe his IQ, is enough. Like, I think he's the better fighter. He's probably the slightly better thinker. So I think he's got edges, and I do think he's the better striker. So there's a window here for Henry Cejudo to come in and do the damn thing and be the guy again. I really think he can pull it off. But there's this just hairs on the back of my neck that's like, man, Aljo's the guy who has been consistently active. You know, I don't like the long layoff, especially at this point in his career. It's a tough spot, man. It's a really tough spot. I'm going to side with Cejudo, I think, but I could see this fight being very, very close and very competitive. It's not going to surprise me at all, whoever gets their hand raised in that fight. And if I do end up betting on Henry Cejudo, it's mostly going to be for old time's sake. It's probably not going to be because I'm the most convicted guy ever for it. Like, it's just going to be because once you've got your boy, you don't go back on your boy. Like, Henry Cejudo's done so much for me. There's no reason for me to doubt him at this point. Even with the layoff, he's still that guy. So I might just run it back because I kind of have to. But I'd be looking Cejudo. Don't feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. I hated betting Sterling. I hated Sterling because of the Jan fight, and Jan used to be one of my favorite fighters, but he's been since downgraded.
Oh, that was such a good night for me.
Only thing I'll say, because like the reason I even thought of this is because I saw someone posted today. They did like Cejudo's takedown defense clip.
Yeah, I saw that.
It looked fantastic, but not a single one of those people wrestles like Aljo other than Mighty Mouse. And Aljo's 4 inches taller than Mighty Mouse and much, much bigger.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, okay, this video is cool. He's got great scrambling, but it doesn't prove anything. He hasn't fought a Sterling yet. And he's coming off this big, he's been out for a minute. So I'm leaning Sterling the underdog, but I'm still waiting. I'm going to see the tape a little bit more. Plus 100 on Sterling, the champion's tempting to me, but we'll see. That's a problem for next week. Anyways, Thank you guys all for tuning in. Thank you, Clint, very much for coming on. Real quick, I'll plug me, then I'll let you plug you, and we'll get the hell out of here. For me, going to be a content light week, probably just because I got finals next week. I am planning on putting out an ACA video. We got ACA on Friday. CW on Saturday. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do a video. I'm going to do my damn best. If not, I'll do write-ups or something. I got my Substack going now. It was inactive last week. Again, a little overwhelmed. Got a lot of stuff going, but subscribe. I'll be putting stuff out, doing shorts on YouTube now. So if you don't like these long form videos, for some reason you don't like me. I mean, you can't not like Clint, so you got to not like me.
That's not true.
Then and just watch the shorts. They're 1 minute long. I do them for almost every fight unless I think people don't care, and I'll be putting those out probably tomorrow. So that's me. Oh, and Friday, one of my favorite shows, Prop Talk on Twitter Spaces with my guy MMA Propaholic. So thank you guys all again. Thank you to Clint for coming on. I always appreciate it. And Clint, why don't you give a quick plug and we'll get out.
Yeah, man. The Die Hard MMA podcast. You can find me over on Pub Sports Radio for everything. Thank you so much for the invitation, man. I always love talking fights here with you. We chat back and forth online, throughout the weeks, but it's always good to jump on camera and do the dang thing. So really appreciate you bringing me on. And it was fun, man. Even though we disagree a lot this next week, I think the fights should be a good time. And
that makes
there's a window of opportunity for us to both come out profitable at the end of this thing. So hopefully that's a best case scenario for us.
Hey, we were on opposite sides, but we have very few opposite bets so
exactly.
So far.
We can both get the bag, even though we disagree a lot.
That's why I never see the point in people fighting over sides. Like, we can all disagree and still all cash. Just do your reads.
Simply doesn't make sense. And that, for me, man, it's us against the bookies. You know what I mean? And even if we disagree, like, that's why bookies exist, is because there's people on opposite sides of a line. That's like literally how they are profitable. So you got to expect that that's going to be the case. I don't hate you because you have a different opinion of a way an MMA fight is going to go on Saturday differently than me. That's silliness. Like, we can talk about it. We can be cordial. People should do that a little bit more often, I feel. But you know all about that.
Oh, no.
No, Lou, not on this show. I haven't mentioned it on this show, but I did buy a hat, and I got a shirt. I got a hat. We are Team Jillian for life, baby. I love that fight. She's going to tap out Tabitha Ricci. You know it's coming.
Okay, are we back?
You're back.
Clint the hat. That was perfect. I phase out. I come back to the Julian Robertson hat.
Lou's asking for it. Here it is, baby. There we go.
I think Jillian wins, honestly. Not to go too much into it. I think she wins.
Tabitha Ricci is the better wrestler. She does have the better striking. I will give her that, but she's too small. She's reliant on the wrestling, and she gets outsized. And we talked about it just last fight. Jillian at 115 is going to be too big and too strong for these girls unless Tabitha Ricci pulls a Joker Hermanson and kicks her shin and runs for the rest of the fight. She's not winning that fight. She's going to end up in a ground transition, and Jillian will find her way to the top. So she'll win moments. She'll get a submission. She'll get a TKO, something. I do think Jillian wins that fight. Yeah,
after proving me right at dog odds that last fight, I'm like you, Julian Robertson all the way.
That's right. Team Savage, baby.
But all right, guys. Thank you guys all for coming in here, watching us, dealing with our little side talks. But appreciate you all. Good luck with any bets. We got a ton of regionals going on. We got UFC. Good week as always. Good luck. Thank you guys all, and goodbye.